Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. As we continue to fully process what we saw in this 2024 season and kind of start to put a close on things before turning the page to 2025, I thought I'd take a look back at some of the biggest surprises that we saw from this college football season. Teams that greatly exceeded expectations, teams that kind of came out of nowhere and obviously added tons to the madness that was this last year, arguably the craziest season that we've ever seen. So today we're going to be bringing you 5 surprise teams. In no specific order, but 5 of the biggest surprises in college football this year. Tomorrow, we're going to do 5 of the biggest disappointments that we saw in 2024, and then we will officially be turning the page to next season. Done with the recaps, done with the reminiscing, already looking ahead to 2025. Let's go ahead and jump into it. These teams are in no specific order. They are not ranked in any certain way, but arguably one of the biggest, maybe the biggest surprise of this last season was Arizona State. The Sun Devils out of the Big 12. And I mean, nobody, not even Arizona State fans. You're lying to yourself if you say you're a fan, you thought this. No one thought Arizona State was going to the college football playoff. No one thought Arizona State was going to win the Big 12. So even if you were a fan, maybe a bowl game is what you were hoping for, but not a conference title. They were picked last in the Big 12, guys. This was a team that over the last couple of years have been 3-9. 3-9 in 2022, 3-9 in 2023. The last 2 years prior to this year, they were 6-18 overall, and then this year alone went 11-3. So almost doubled their win total from the last 2 years combined in one single season. Last in the Big 12 in the preseason to Big 12 champions after destroying Iowa State. Made the college football playoff, got a first-round bye in the playoff, and arguably should have defeated Texas in that game, losing 39-31 in double overtime. So arguably could have been a college football playoff semifinalist and fought Ohio State for a spot in the national championship. But this team was truly remarkable. And what's crazy to me is to see how close Arizona State was to maybe not even being in this spot. 11-3, but they had 6 wins by 1 possession. 6 wins by 1 possession, narrowly beating Mississippi State. They were taking care of business early, but the Bulldogs came back into it. Narrowly beat Texas State early in the year. Barely beat Kansas, 35-31 against the Jayhawks. This team was 5-2 at about the midway point of the year, and everybody was like, wow, it's a good start for Kenny Dillingham's squad, but no one thought they'd get hot at the end and make the college football playoff. Again, everybody thought, oh, 5-2, they'll make a good bowl game, but the playoff, no way. 5-2 and then got hot, dominating down the stretch, winning 6 straight games. That includes wins at Kansas State, a win over BYU, and that 45-19 win over Iowa State. The Sun Devils are now ranked number 13 in our way too early top 25. Everybody slept on them in 2024. Nobody will be sleeping on them entering next season. Another team, Army. How about Jeff Monken and the Black Knights? Again, another team that I think people would have been happy with a bowl game, 7, 8, maybe even 9-win season, but Army having the first 12-win season in program history, yeah, it's pretty remarkable. This was their first year in the American Athletic Conference, so Army transitioning from an independent to playing in a conference, you know, that's a bigger transition than I think people realize. They were coming off a mediocre 6-6 season in 2023. Nobody saw Army doing this well, but man, were they fun to watch. They went 12-2, their only losses coming to Notre Dame, who played the national championship, and unfortunately for them, Navy, losing might be the biggest game of their season, falling to the midshipmen at the end of the year. But they won the American Athletic Conference. Their first year in the conference, they went undefeated in conference play, destroyed Tulane in that championship game, and then did win their bowl game over Louisiana Tech to clinch their 12th win of the year. Only one of their 12 wins this season were decided by 1 possession. That was their regular season finale, 29-24 against UTSA. So not only was Army winning, but they were winning in dominant fashion. They were dominating their opponents left and right. Their defense was outstanding. Bryson Daly, over 1,600 rushing yards and 32 touchdowns. They rose as high as number 16 in the AP poll, number 19 in the college football playoff poll. At one point, there was this argument that if Army had somehow defeated Notre Dame, you could have made the argument for Army to be in the college football playoff and not Boise State. So this team was so great to watch. Obviously going to look a lot different entering 2025, but this will go down as arguably the best season in Army football history, and one that certainly no one saw coming. Another team that no one saw coming, Indiana. The funny thing about Indiana is a lot of us, including myself, had them going to a bowl game, and that, for some, seemed to be a bit of a stretch. Indiana had been struggling for so long. They just hired Curt Cignetti. Were they going to be able to compete that well in a very dominant Big Ten? But when you looked at the roster that was completely built through the transfer portal, and you looked at the schedule, you said, Indiana probably could win 7 or 8 games. That would be a great year for the Hoosiers, considering how bad they've been, not just the last few years, but really historically. Instead, Curt Cignetti took this team all the way to the college football playoff, going 11-1 in the regular season, the only loss coming to Ohio State. And a lot of people are going to say, well, it's because they had such an easy schedule. It was such a breeze. They didn't have to play many of the top dogs in the Big Ten. And you're right about that. But still, to go 11-1 against any schedule is extremely impressive. And they started 10-0, won 9 of those 10 games by at least 14 points. So it wasn't like Indiana was barely getting by against the Marylands, the Northwesterns, or guys like that. They were destroying every team in their path. And I think that was a major reason why they did make the college football playoff. Their strength of schedule wasn't great, but the margin of victory was. And how Indiana was looking, the eye test, was very impressive. And again, losing a game on the road in Columbus against Ohio State was nothing that was going to keep them out of the playoffs. So despite how poorly they played against Notre Dame, despite how poorly they played against Ohio State, their only 2 losses this year were against the 2 teams that played in the national championship game. And I do believe Indiana did deserve to be in the college football playoff. So this team was so much fun to watch. The best season, the best team in Indiana football history. Next year, obviously, they're not going to be able to replicate that. The schedule gets a lot tougher. They have to play Illinois, and they have to go on the road to Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State. So Indiana will have a couple regular season losses, more than likely, in 2025. But with Curt Cignetti as their head coach, anything is possible. No game is out of reach. No win is impossible. The Hoosiers are a force to be reckoned with, and I think will be a perennial, at least bowl team for the foreseeable future, as long as Cignetti is on their sideline. How about another basketball school that surprised us in 2024? That's UConn. What a year for them, right? Back in April, they won, back-to-back national championships. The basketball team was thriving. Football, lately has not been thriving as much, but this year they were. The Huskies won 9 games for the first time since 2007. And the crazy thing about UConn football was their schedule. I remember breaking this down back in the preseason, back in the summer when we did game-by-game predictions. The Huskies had 6 straight home games between September 21st and November 1st. So about a month and a half of being at home for the Huskies. And during that stretch, they went 5-1. So that was really the difference maker in UConn's season, was having that home stretch and actually being able to defend their home turf. The crazy thing about UConn, too, is they went 9-4, but the majority of their losses, actually I should say all their losses, were against Power 4 opponents. They got destroyed by Maryland in week 1. That's fine, all right? But then they only lost to Duke, another 9-win team, only lost to them by 5. They only lost to Wake Forest by 3. They only lost to Syracuse, who won 10 games, had one of the best offenses in the country, only lost to them by 7. So 3 of their 4 losses came by 1 possession against Power 4 opponents. 3 of their 4 losses came by an average of 5 points. So they were not just, some team that took advantage of a weak schedule. Yeah, the schedule wasn't great, but they were competitive. They were playing good, disciplined football. And that obviously showed in their bowl game as well when they beat North Carolina 27-14 in the Fenway Bowl. Yes, a depleted North Carolina squad. Yes, one that just was not very motivated. But UConn still getting a win over a power opponent and clinching a big-time bowl win. So what a season for them. Again, first 9-win season since 2007. I think many would have been happy with 6, 7 wins, if that. 9 wins, greatly exceeding expectations. And then finally, this one probably is very obvious for many. The last surprise team we have, the Vanderbilt Commodores. How can you not love Vandy? Again, and look, no one saw this coming, right? Even with the addition of Diego Pavia, which was fantastic. I don't think many people thought Vanderbilt would be very competitive. I didn't think many people thought they would be able to win many games. And they immediately defied expectations when they beat Virginia Tech in the season opener. They took down Virginia Tech, and it was like, whoa, this Vanderbilt team might be different. This Vanderbilt team maybe could flirt with a bowl game. But then they lost to Georgia State shortly after that, and I was like, well, there we go, same old Vandy. Maybe it was a fluke. Oh, well, so much for that. But that Georgia State game was a turning point for them. They, a couple weeks later, as we know, beat number 1 Alabama, shocked the nation by taking down Alabama 40-35. And they only had 1 possession losses to Missouri, Texas, and LSU, so some of the best teams in the SEC. Vanderbilt was playing them very, very tough. Arguably should have beaten Missouri in overtime. Texas was, a 3-point loss, and LSU, I believe, was a touchdown loss. So Vanderbilt much better maybe than their record showed. They went 7-6. They did win their bowl game over Georgia Tech. They clinched their first winning season since 2013. They made their first bowl game since 2018. Clark Lee did a phenomenal job down in Nashville. And now entering 2025, Diego Pavia returns, and nobody will be sleeping on the Commodores like we did last year. Couple honorable mentions, teams that were very surprising but did not make this cut. We had Syracuse, who we mentioned, 10 wins in year one under Fran Brown, a fantastic year, and Kyle McCord, that offense, were so much fun to watch. SMU, we expected big things from SMU, but maybe not all the way to the playoff. For the Mustangs, ACC runner-up, made the playoff before falling to Penn State. Sam Houston, they made that transition to the FBS level just a few years ago. Last year struggled mightily. This year clinching a 10-win season, including their big bowl win over Georgia Southern. In Illinois, clinching their first 10-win season since 2001. They make the honorable mention list. Fighting Illini, going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2025. So guys, leave your thoughts and comments below. Do you agree with these surprise teams? Were there other surprise teams that we didn't mention? Let us know down in the comments. And will these teams be able to replicate their success next season? Or would they, dare I say, be a one-hit wonder? Leave your thoughts down below, and let's get ready for a season that will be here before we know it. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of the expert picks and tons of exclusive content there for you to help you get through this offseason. The season may be over, but it never ends here at our channel. So go check it out, become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.